And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Senator Crapo, then more of your phone calls about last night's incredible primary. Senator, the only thing missing was you from being at the Riverside. What an incredible night. I know you were watching. I know you were taking a look at this. Your thoughts on what happened last night, sir?
Well, you are right. I stayed up till 4 a.m. Eastern time watching the results. Maybe my voice is a little raspy, but I'll tell you, it was a fascinating election. I don't know how you and your callers have responded to this, but I'll tell you, I didn't have any idea who was going to win that governor's race, and I must have asked every Idahoan who I've met in the last month or two, and nobody seemed to be able to get a feel for it. And I could see a way that any one of the three major Republican candidates could win. Brad Little is an outstanding candidate. He is super, and I send him my congratulations.
Indeed. Boy, are you surprised that we had the voter turnout and we had everything else? It's amazing that people were so involved in politics there, which is what you've, that in public service, what you've dedicated your life to.
Well, I don't know that I would say I'm surprised, but I'm very, very pleased. When you get a high turnout like this in the primary, it's an indication that there's going to be a high turnout in the general election. And that always means a good, strong election. People are paying attention. And although people are divided today across the country, and there are people of all different political perspectives in Idaho, the fact is that we come together at an election, make a decision, and then we move forward in the greatest nation on earth, and this is just exciting to see this kind of thing playing out in Idaho as well.
Senator Crapo, what's it like to run?
Just in general, what's it like to run? It's kind of like trying to take a drink of water from a fire hydrant. And seriously, you go full speed, and there is no time for rest. I could kind of tell it in the voices of some of those who won, who were interviewed last night. They understand that they're already now. They've just been, every one of them, I think. Well, not everyone. Most of them went through a very, very intensive primary, and now they're turning right around. And literally this morning, the very next morning, they are back at it, campaigning to go forward to the general election. It's just full time.
Senator, what's going on in Washington? What are the big stories? We've been focused on what's going on here, but obviously we're always concerned about our fiscal sanity, and I know that is your preeminent issue.
We are working to try to control our budget. Washington has not even done a budget for years now, and part of the reason for that, maybe the biggest reason, is that the national debt has made us so divided that we cannot get majorities for even reasonable budgets. I suspect that we'll see another government shutdown type battle develop in the next few months, and that's unfortunate. In the meantime, while we are pushing forward on the economic front, we got some good news. As you know, I've introduced and passed in the Senate with a broad bipartisan vote a major overhaul of Dodd-Frank, pulling back the excessive regulations that have been put into place in our financial system. And this is good news for consumers. And it appears that the House is getting ready to pass that legislation next week. So that's one of the positive things that's happening here. And there's really so much going on every front, whether it is Iran, North Korea, or whether it is our domestic policy. There's a tremendous amount going on, and I'm actually pretty happy with the agenda that we are working on in Congress.
Senator Mike Crapo joining us. What about this North Korean situation?
Well, the latest news last night, unless it's changed since the last I heard, was that Kim Jong-un and his leadership, or I think it was someone in his leadership, said that they weren't really sure they were going to meet with President Trump. I still think they will, but the fact is that President Trump's firm stand has proven already that it can yield results and, yield fruit. We got the 3 prisoners released. We've had some significant concessions with regard to some facilities. We need to get all the facilities that they're using in North Korea addressed with regard to being able to validate and verify that they are moving away from a nuclear program. We're not there yet, but the fact that we are engaged in discussions is, I think, a tribute to President Trump's strong stand. The United States has basically followed a policy of appeasement with regard to not only North Korea, but most other nations in the world for years, and I believe that that policy has failed. I'm glad to see a president who's saying that we will stand up for America. We will expect our allies to participate more with us, and we will not just sit back and let them increasingly engage in bad behavior without consequence.
Senator Mike Crapo joining us at KIDO Talk Radio. A couple more questions for the Senator. We know he has to run. Senator, we'll ask you about this Russian investigation, the Mueller probe now a year in. What are people in the cloakroom, what are people on the Senate floor saying about this, if anything?
I think there's a pretty strong consensus that, notwithstanding a lot of the talk you see in the media, that the investigation should be allowed to proceed to its conclusion. I also think there's a pretty strong feeling on the Republican side that the conclusion should be soon. We've had not only this FBI investigation, we have had a Senate intelligence investigation, a House intelligence investigation, and you're right, we are now a year into this. It's time for some finality and for some conclusions to be reached, and I think the American people are getting a little bit weary of this. By the way, this is not unusual when we have special counsel situations. They don't have any limitations on them, really, and they tend to just go on and on and on and on. And I think most people would like to see some finality here.
And finally, Senator, your colleague John McCain.
Boy, we're all worried for him when the diagnosis came out that he had this brain cancer, which does not have a good prognosis. We all worried a lot. That being said, John McCain is a fighter and has shown that he's going to do everything. I mean, that he's just the kind of person who goes to the very last nth degree of his energy to fight back, and that's what we know he's doing. We miss him so much on the Senate floor, not only because we miss his votes, but because we miss his counsel and advice. He is a wonderful man and a wonderful senator, and our thoughts and prayers all go out to him.
Senator Crapo, you stay out of trouble. We appreciate you joining us on KIDO Talk Radio.
Thank you, Kevin. I look forward to our next visit.
Take care now.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Our friend Senator Mike Crapo joining us. Let's go to Pete in Mountain Home with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pete.
Kevin, good morning to you and all the listeners out there on KIDO. I have a challenge for Liberal Steve for the election in November. If his candidate wins, I will donate $100 to the Liberal charity of his choice. If Brad Little wins the governorship, he has to donate $100 to the Boise Rescue Mission. Will you take that bet, Steve? Over to you.
Your thoughts on what happened last night? I'm sure he'll respond. Your thoughts on what happened last night, Pete?
It was I supported Raul. I thought he'd have been a great governor. But I do think that we had the people of Idaho had a really good slate there. I think it was kind of neat to see that many possibilities. And I don't think we're going to turn into something that we aren't with Brad Little at the helm. I'm glad to see that he did win, and I think it's interesting that the Democrats came up with a Bernie Sanders candidate. I think that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good move for them, but it shows you.
It shows you where they are. It shows you where the liberal Steves of the party are. The real passionate ones. They're so far out on the left side that it's kind of hard to see them anymore.
Well, and the young millennials.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting take on, and the fact that she won with virtually no money compared to the other candidate.
Yeah, and props to A.J. Belukoff for for running and spending his own money.
Yeah, yeah.
It is something that I didn't think that we would see.
Yep. It's and like I said, I have a challenge out there for Liberal Steve. Let's see if he'll put his money where his mouth is.
Pete Mountain Home, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Terrence from State College, Pennsylvania on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning. Yeah, if only there was a short version for Kevin, like there's Terrence. Hey. I want to double Pete's bet. You got that, LS? Otherwise, I've got one thing to say to Liberal Steve. Just like Minnick is a gimmick, Steve's got to lead. Period. You know, Kevin, I think Mr. Labrador had a great chance, and I believe, this is just my personal belief, if Alquist had not gotten in, slung mud, lied, did everything he did, and created doubt about Labrador, I think Labrador would have taken it. Otherwise, people fell back on what they've already experienced and they felt comfortable with, which was Mr. Little.
Well, it broke well for Brad Little because you had Dr. Alquist and Congressman Labrador battling each other, and let's say they draw from the same base, that's 60% of the vote. You have the lieutenant governor with 37% of the vote. It broke just right for him.
You know, and hooray for him. You know, I believe that he will give it everything he's got, and, you know, he'll do the best job that he possibly can. You know, he certainly has the experience behind him. But I think that, you know, we didn't need the dirty politics. And besides, Kevin, had we gotten Alquist in, we would have had delegations from Utah telling us what to do, whether we like that or not. You know, when
now,
you have
you'll have to expand on that one, Terry.
Well, you know, a lot of his influence comes out of Utah, you know, with his background. And they would have been running through his father their ideas of how Idaho should be governed. And we would have seen a lot of that played out through him. Was that enough expansion?
If you say so. No, I'm just going back to, you know, the outcome. And I had people last night say that, but, you know, that's why you have a primary. Now, going back to Congressman Labrador, you know, he even admitted himself it was going to be a tough slog. You got limited resources. You're in Congress, and, you know, he got in the last major candidate to get into the race. And no matter how much of an appeal you have and your charisma, you know, it's like what they say in the sports. Eventually, the numbers catch up with you. Now, look, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, you know, maybe that's what happened. People are upset with the negative advertising, but the negative advertising worked. And I don't think it was just that. I think it was the frequency of the negative advertising. And there you have it. And you have Dr. Alquist getting almost 30% of the vote, Congressman getting almost 33, 34%, and the lieutenant governor, you know, 37, 38%. A three-way split. There you have it. Plus, you've got, you remember, Brad Little had the power of the, as I said, the faux incumbency, because Governor Otter always shared that with him and always, you know, had him be the governor for the day. And those things add up, I think.
No, when you're in doubt, fall back to what you already know.
Well, and look, when you have these groups, whether it's the Prosperity Fund or Billy, Willie, or Nilly, you know, supporting you, that adds up to more stuff, right?
It gives you all the exposure that you need. But, you know, I definitely want to second Pete's bet. You got that, LS? If she wins, you name it, the $100 goes to him. If not, you put $100 towards the Boise Rescue Mission. You know what? I think it'd be great if another 10 people did that today, too. So, Steve, are you going to step up to the plate, put your money where your mouth is?
Boy, people are calling out Liberal Steve.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, I got a question for you. Next time you get Mr. Crapo on, ask him who's going to loan us our $2.5 trillion this fall when we do the budget, because the feds are unwinding. They said they won't. The Chinese said they won't. Right now, Japan is selling at an incredible rate, getting rid of our bonds. So I want to know where we're going to get the money at. Who's going to loan it to us?
You know, you're just full of good news.
Well, that's a serious question.
Yes.
can't go to the movies and go to the diner if we don't have the money. Kevin Miller, you're doing a great job.
Terry from
You have a
State
good
College,
day.
Pennsylvania, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Yes, you will.
All right. Thank you. Do want to remind everybody, coming up tomorrow, coming up Thursday, we will be at Terry's Cafe in Meridian. Not Terry from State College, Pennsylvania's Cafe. Terry's Cafe in Meridian, broadcasting live as we urge people to come together. And here's the thought. Can the Republican Party repair itself? Let's talk about it next. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And welcome back. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Joined now by Representative Christy Zitto. Representative Zitto, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you this morning?
A little woozy, and hopefully I won't stumble and bumble too much through this broadcast. And you?
I'm praying for the same. Yep, we were up pretty late, and then I got a text message, I think, at 3:45 this morning if I would go on one of your sister radio stations at like 6:30. So I understand how you're feeling completely.
Sure. Your thoughts?
Wow, I don't even know what to say. I'm just humbled, Kevin. The response, I was all prepared to call my opponent, and wish him well in his new endeavor. So I was humbled, and I'm honored, and I'm so grateful. And the people of our district made it clear their intention, and it was a great night and a great day. And I'm so thankful to all of the people who worked so hard, all of the citizens in our district who put out signs and handed out flyers and made phone calls and text messages and went door to door and talked to their neighbors. And that's what our government should be about. It should be about citizens being involved and caring enough to make a difference.
Indeed. Is that what happened last night?
That's what happened for us, yes. Yep, I truly believe that.
Where do you go from here?
I think we'll just keep doing the same thing that we've done. We're going to listen to the citizens in our district and in our state. We're going to work hard towards those goals that, and the things that they would like to see happen. Represent the people, represent their voice and their will.
That's easier said than done.
It is. It is.
Your thoughts on the governor's race?
It didn't turn out exactly like I thought it would, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. And I think what we do we go forward now and we get along and we work for our state and for the people in our state. And we put the elections behind us and we unify, and there's a lot of work to be done. And, our state is great and our economy is robust and growing, and it'll be important to make the most of the resources that we have now and continue to protect the liberties of our citizens. And I think that'll be an important job.
Indeed. But what do you say to people? I mean, you travel in the most conservative circles here in the Gem State. There are some people that, have some hurt feelings, rightfully so.
Well, and it happens, and that's politics, I guess. But I think that's the important thing to remember is, win or lose, and even people, there were people who openly campaign against any given candidate in any given race. And I think it's important to remember that, if you're not successful in your race, or if you are successful in your race, we're all citizens of the same state and of the same country. And once the politics are over and races are won and the people have spoken, now's the time to get to work and put all of that aside. People who campaigned heavily against me and who even were derogatory from time to time, I don't hold that against them. If they were to come to me tomorrow and ask me for help with something or, address an issue or whatever, I would do that, because I can't see letting these things stand in the way of preserving and protecting what's right. And you represent everyone. And I think that's important to remember. Even though your feelings are hurt, there comes a time where you have to rise above that.
What about the threat of Paulette Jordan?
That will be really interesting to see how that works. Paulette Jordan is charismatic. She's a strong leader. I'm really curious to see how that race will shake out, what the numbers will be in the end of that. I think that's going to be one to really watch this fall. I really do.
Well, that and the lieutenant governor's race still hasn't been decided.
Not completely, no. That, from what I understand, my phone and stuff's been busy enough this morning. I've been trying to pick up on some of that, but I understand it's not completely set yet. So, what have you heard on it, Kevin? What are you hearing where you are?
Still tied, and perhaps a recount, perhaps a runoff.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Yeah, the politics of our state, but it's just such a great process. It's, everyone has a voice, everyone has an opportunity to be involved, and I'm really excited to see how it's going to go and how those numbers will shake out.
Representative Zito, thank you for joining us.
Oh, Kevin, thank you. Just any time I got a message from someone that, and it was a little while before I could get to make this call, but I appreciate all you do for our state, Kevin, and I appreciate the honesty and integrity that you use in your job, and I think that's important. It's very important that we get the news and not a spin on it. So, anytime I can be of service, anytime I can come on and visit with you about any issue, please don't hesitate to call.
Yes, ma'am. You have a great day. Congrats.
You too, Kevin. Get some rest. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
More of your phone calls next. First, traffic and weather. And coming up, we'll speak with Brent, Tea Party Bob, and you with me, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. Your reaction to the Great Idaho primary, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to Brent in Meridian. Thank you for your patience, Brent. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning. I just want to call in and tell Brad Little he lost my vote. He lost my wife's vote because of the dirty campaigning. And while I sure won't vote for Paula Jordan or whatever her name is because she was funded by George Soros' son, should be easy to defeat her, there's no way I will vote for him. This is Idaho. Dirty campaigns don't belong here. Shame on him.
Brent, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you for listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Doug in Mountain Home with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, I just can't believe a lot of this stuff. I don't get to hear all of this because I live out of service of everything. Did Christy Zito win?
I believe she did, yes. We
Did
just
she?
had her on a
Okay.
minute ago, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't catch it, Kevin. I was starting a truck at work.
No worries.
But anyway, listening to that liberal, Steve, I guess there's getting to be a whole lot more of them around when you get a liberal Democrat woman voted in for the Democrats. It don't surprise me none. I mean, just look what goes on elsewhere. And the other thing I wanted to say, what he said about bringing the pot oil, I was just down less than 10 days ago in Northern Cal picking up some stuff from an old friend of mine that died, and yeah, you got to see the money down there, and it's all from growing pot. And I know because I've seen it with my own eyes, Kevin, it's not a good thing. I mean, it really isn't. I don't care if they call it medical career, whatever, and it's moving here. So people from Idaho, get ready for it, because I don't think you're going to stop it. But people down there got so freaking much money, Kevin, from selling that stuff, growing it, selling it, and selling them homes for millions of dollars. That's what you're seeing coming here and buying your homes for cash money. Well, that's all I wanted to say. And the guy that just called in about Brad Little and dirty campaigning, I feel the same way. I didn't vote for him. I don't know what I'm going to do. I ain't going to vote for no liberal woman, that's for sure. So that's all I have to say. Keep up the good work, and God bless you, Kevin.
God bless you, Doug.
God bless you guys.
We appreciate you. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We're joined now by the publisher of the Gem State Patriot, Tea Party Bob on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Mr. Miller. How are you?
Oh, just trying to make it through without coughing.
You probably didn't get much sleep last night. Well, it's finally over. We have the winners. I have to say I'm disappointed that Congressman Labrador did not win, and I believe that he was at a definite disadvantage by not being able to spent as much time visiting many of the counties that I believe he could have won. I also think that without Alquist in the race, Labrador would have been our next governor. Unfortunately, Idaho is once again going to be saddled with the big money crony lobbyists of IACI controlling the state, and that is a bad thing for the taxpayers. I believe Idaho's state employees played a big part in Brad Little's being elected, as we have over 30,000 state employees. And if you include their spouses, that's 60,000 votes. That's enough to swing an election. Keep in mind that both Labrador and Alquist held the threat of the loss of jobs in a reorganization of the bureaucratic state agencies as part of their campaign policy. And I think that many have been worried about that. And I think that it did affect the fact that Brad did win. Whenever you try to cut the pork out of a state budget, you're going to find that the hogs head for the polls to protect their jobs. And another reason was the negative advertising that the Prosperity Fund did in the end, last 2 weeks of the election, no doubt caused many of the new voters that have just moved to the state, I call them the transplants, to vote for Little. I was kind of happy to see Janice McEachin do so well in her run for lieutenant governor. It looks like she still has a nice lead over Steve, the last numbers I looked at. And I can't tell you how pleased I am that Russ Fulcher won by such a wide margin in a congressional race, which he was certainly due. All in all, probably gained a few more conservative votes in the legislature, but you can see that the state is changing slowly and becoming less red by the day as the state grows with the continuing influx of new residents from the more liberal states, and they're bringing a less conservative attitude to Idaho. You can see also that with Paulette Jordan winning the Democratic nomination.
Right, let's talk a little bit about the libs coming in. Are you worried?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I want out of Ada County. I'm looking to move. This is not going to be the place I want to live anymore. Not only is it becoming overcrowded, we don't have the infrastructure, taxes are going to go through the roof, and the faster you can get out of here, the better off you're going to be. To be very honest with you, I'm worried about Paulette Jordan. This is the first indication that the far left is moving in and gaining ground. The fact that Beloukov couldn't win that election tells me we have some real trouble brewing. And it's down the road a piece, because we still have a lot of Republicans here. But as the state continues to change, I think we're going to see that push more and more towards that left of center movement. I can't say much more about this aside from the fact that I'm disappointed with the governor's race. Brad Little won, and I still see the problems coming ahead in the next 4 years, because there's not going to be any basic change in how we are going to be treated by our state government, and that's very unfortunate. We had an opportunity to change it, and I think we could have seen a lot more people come out to vote. But again, as I say, we get the government we deserve.
Tea Party Bob will catch up with you.
Thank you, Kevin. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Tea Party Bob's talking about our breakfast at Terry's Cafe, bringing people together. Too Much Truth joins us now with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning. I just wanted to let you know that I don't vote anymore. I've voted my whole life. But I don't do it anymore because I realize that I no longer want to negotiate the terms of my own enslavement. And it used to be that they'd say, well, if you didn't vote, you have no right to complain. But I think it's just the reverse. If you voluntarily voted for your own enslavement, then you really have nothing to say about it. Everybody knows, and they have for their whole life, that these people make these promises, we vote them into office, and we continually lose more liberty and freedom and have forever. And so we know the results. It's a known quantity. So the act of going and voting proves that you are allowing them to further enslave you. So anyway, I just want to let you know, I'll never vote again, ever. Because I don't want to be guilty of hanging myself and giving up all of my liberties and freedoms on purpose.
Too much truth? That's pretty harsh.
Yeah, it's just so true. I just can't get around it anymore. I try to live in a la-la pretend world, but I can't do it anymore. I took this red pill. I see the truth around me. I mean, all taxation is theft. And so if you vote for people who are going to steal money from you under the threat of violent force against your property and your body, you're guilty. I mean, you willingly gave up your soul. So I can't do that anymore. I have to stand and fight. So hopefully the world, hopefully we've evolved. Hopefully we've grown up enough to realize that we don't need a king. We don't need a ruler. We can all rule ourselves just fine. The average person that you and I all know, if there was no government or police, we're not going to just go out and start killing each other. Obviously, we've just been sold this bogus bill of goods that says that if you don't have a ruler, you're all going to die. Well, of course, it's nonsense. But when you have many, many generations of people who've been brainwashed into this, it's a long, hard road to get people to wake up to it. But I try every day. I tell everybody. So have a good day, and hopefully don't be a slave anymore.
All right, too much truth urging people not to vote. What do you think? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And let's go to Laurel in Eagle with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Laurel.
Good morning, Kevin. Thank you for having me on the show today. First of all, too much truth made absolutely no sense. That's my 2 cents. But anyway, crazy. But anyways, I'm a California transplant, and I'm really tired of California transplants getting the brunt of the criticism for Idaho changing its colors. I'm a conservative. I voted very conservatively. I voted for Raul Labrador. I supported and donated to his campaign. I voted for Russ Fulcher. And I meet a lot of people in my business. I'm in the retail business. I talk to folks all day long, people coming from California, and I've noticed most of them are conservative. We call ourselves California political refugees because we've gotten out of the state for a reason. And we vote very conservatively. I'm active in many Second Amendment groups, again, full of California conservatives. And I'm just really tired of it now. I do volunteer on Election Day up in the Boise Bench area. And it's been my experience that most of those people are natives of Idaho because the Californians are moving into Eagle and Star and more rural areas to get away from the crowds. And if you look at the precincts, those areas did vote more conservatively than, say, Boise and the smaller, downtown precincts. Those precincts downtown are voting more liberally, and those are people from Idaho. Those are Idaho natives. And the Californians are moving out into the rural areas, and if you look, those are more conservative voting areas.
Well, I would agree with you, but there is a liberal wave growing here.
Well, in my experience now, I'm not a scientist. It's my unscientific personal poll. I talk to people every day, and I am in retail. I'm very, very friendly. I talk to a lot of people, and I find that the people that are seen more conservative are coming from Oregon, Washington, and some from Northern California. But people from Southern California, which is a huge amount of people moving up here, are very conservative. And a lot of the Oregonians, people from Washington, Washingtonians, and some Northern California folks are conservative too. But I'm finding the Californians that I meet are not the liberals. They really aren't. We're getting out for a reason, and we want Idaho to stay the same. Actually, we're afraid. I fear Idaho is going to be blue someday, or at least purple.
The libs
and
are
then
coming.
Where do we go?
The libs are coming for us.
I know. Where do we
They
go
are.
after this?
I don't know about Wyoming.
There's no refuge.
Well, Laurel, welcome to Idaho, and thank you
I love it.
for listening and setting us straight here.
Okay. Well, thank you for having such a great show.
Thank you. Take care now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. More of your phone calls coming up. Traffic and weather together. And Kevin Miller in the morning here. Coming up, more of your phone calls, unfiltered, uncensored. We want to hear from you about the results. And as we've said, win, lose, or draw, isn't it time for the Republicans, the conservatives to come together, considering you've got the looming challenge of liberal Paulette Jordan and her millennial militia. Can't wait to get rolling on that one. Good morning.